Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of episode 3 of the 2020 television version of Black Narcissus. Okay, so does episode 3 deliver on the religious drama and the scary supernatural horror aspects that the previous 2 episodes were building up? Yes and no. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, I get that this is supposed to be a religious drama and there's supposed to be tension between characters, and supposed to be about sins and lust for things that you can't have, and desires. But at the same time, this series has implications of a ghost, and this ghost is starting to take over the mind of the youngest sister of the nuns, Sister Ruth, and yet there is very little in terms of actually a haunting. I still stand by, after this episode, I still stand by that the ghost actually wasn't necessary. That it could have been just them going a bit mad, or just have been a religious drama where they start to realize what they can't have, and some of them accept this, like Sister, what's her name? Gemma Arterton's character, the main character. Or they can go insane by not getting what they really want, like Sister Ruth. And I feel like that would have been a stronger story. Or paranoia. They're imagining these things. It's all inside their head. Psychological drama, psychological horror. But there's a ghost in this. Or a spirit, and it's possessing Ruth. And once again, it doesn't feel like it was necessary. Yeah, Ruth starts going crazy and starts to go mad and tries to leave the sisterhood, and eventually kind of loses herself in the end. But that could have been handled in one of the other ways I suggested, instead of having a ghost, because the ghost otherwise doesn't contribute to anything. There is very little reason for this ghost to actually do anything in this. I know the ghost is driven by love, but she doesn't actually need to do anything. She doesn't need to cause this place to go wrong for people. She doesn't need to screw everything up for everybody else who comes here. Yet she does. So I was expecting them to do something with that. But besides taking over Ruth, there is nothing in the wake of this ghost needing to exist in the story. Like I said, you could have had a psychological drama or an actual religious drama where a character eventually wants out at the end. So it just feels like they wasted the horror aspect, at least until the last half of this episode, when Ruth starts going crazy and starts to dress up like the princess who committed suicide 20 years earlier. It just feels like it could have been handled in a different direction and it probably would have worked better. Or they up the horror angle, they up the suspense, they up the ante. Maybe Ruth has become the princess at the end. Maybe it's become some sort of Ruth's body is now slowly becoming the princess's new vessel, and she takes over the body until the end, when spoiler alert, Ruth accidentally or maybe intentionally falls off the tower where the princess had 20 years earlier. I feel like if that was how they explained what was going on, again, that would have been a better story. But no, it just feels like the ghost element was just there so they could have horror into this. So it's not just a religious drama, so they can have it as a religious drama / horror series. The same could be said for the book and the film, if they go the same way, and other adaptations, if there's any others out there besides this and the 47 film. But Yeah, I just don't feel it was that necessary. The religious drama, I think, was handled well in this episode. I think it's been handled well throughout the series. I just think it needed to pick up the pace a bit more in the first and second episodes. Episode 3, it's not so draggy. I think it's a bit better. And finally, the character who did barely feck all in the first 2 episodes, she gets character development. The one I've forgotten the name of. Finally, halfway through this episode, she gets some character development. We waited 2.5 hours, give or take, for this character to do something, and what we got, I suppose, was good. It was a good character development for her. As a baby was dying, and she was sad that it was dying, and she wanted to help, but she knew she couldn't. So she was feeling upset about that, and then the revelation came about her wanting to have a baby of her own. This is great character development. It's such a shame it comes 2.5 hours into a near 3 hour, or nearly 2.5 hours. First episode was 54 minutes, the second one's 55, this one's 57. But let's say 2 hours 20 to 2 hours 30 minutes into a 2 hour 45 to 3 hour drama series. About 5/6 through this series, she gets some character development. Where was this development in the last 2 episodes? The other sister who's there, who joined at the end of the last episode, she's good. She has some of the moments. She has the face like a slapped cow, and she's always pissed off. Or at least that's what she appears to be. I mean, she's a decent character in places when she's not being bossy and stuff. But yeah, she's all right. And Jim Broadbent's character is also pretty good at the start. I do like Ruth's transition into madness and her eventually wanting to leave. But I just think the supernatural element that was around it should either have been explained better, upped more, or removed. Just remove it. And the flashbacks to Gemma Arterton's character's backstory, I suppose they kind of tie in with her characters, but I'm kind of getting sick of these BBC miniseries having random flashbacks that maybe they do tie into the character's arc, but it really only comes together at the end. And yeah, I suppose that kind of is the flashback's point, but it's starting to get a bit repetitive with these BBC dramas, especially the shorter ones, where they will do this. I know some of the Agatha Christie ones that have been adapted in the last couple of years for the BBC, like ABC Murders a few years ago, did this. I think A Christmas Carol last year, 2019's one, did that as well. I'm kind of getting a bit tired of these random flashbacks to past events that, not even past events, they're just snippets of events that took place years ago, and it's somehow tying in with a character's journey, specifically the main character. And I'm just getting tired of that trope with some of these BBC miniseries. I haven't seen all of the BBC miniseries over the last couple of years, but from the ones I've seen over the last couple of years, I'm seeing a pattern with some of these random flashbacks for a couple seconds that tie in with the character story at the end, but until then mean very little to the audience. I had a similar issue with Doctor Who Ascension of the Cybermen, where they just kept cutting back and forth to the Brendan stuff in Ascension of the Cybermen, and then in The Timeless Children, it was revealed it was stuff from The Matrix, and the Doctor was supposedly seeing it, even though it was not really stated that the Doctor knew about this until the Master showed her. It's starting to get tropey and annoying stuff like this, so I'm glad the Serpent, thankfully, hasn't done this. It's got its own quirky way of showing past events and current events at the time of when the story is set. It's got its own quirky way of showing its events, and I wasn't entirely keen on it to start with, but I've started to get used to it with the 3rd episode. I'll check out episode 4 at time recording. I'll check out episode 4 in a few days' time for you guys. The review of episode 4 of The Serpent should be out by now, depending when these reviews come out. But yeah, I'm kind of getting a bit sick of these tropes and these uses in BBC dramas. I do love the climax. The climax is brilliant, where the story kind of comes to an end. I think it was handled well with Ruth's story and the fight with her and Gemma Arterton's character, and Arterton's character remaining in character, loves her still, but Ruth now hates her and tries to kill her before eventually committing suicide. Whether intentional or not, I think she was intentional, but I'm not entirely certain. Yeah, I think she was, but again, I'm not entirely certain. And then everybody leaves because the school and monastery have become a failure with the dark stuff that's going on there, with the baby dying, the villagers won't trust them, and now Sister Ruth has died. So yeah, they failed. But there's some nice stuff with Gemma Arterton and Mr. Dean at the very end of the episode. The character build up between them has been pretty good throughout this episode, and a bit from the first two, but mostly in this episode. I also liked the character arc with the young general and the girl that Mr. Dean brought there. I forgot to mention that in the last review. They started to have a relationship in that episode, and this episode has some good moments with that, especially when they get caught, and then later the main general makes his nephew whip the girl so that she can stay at the monastery whilst he also stays to do his studies. So that was a great scene. It wasn't nice, but it was a great scene for the episode. Nasty stuff though. Ugh. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. I was actually kind of expecting the main general to have her executed. Although a nice alternative would have been there for him to go, yeah, this is actually quite fine. Actually, to be honest, a few minutes later, he then some sort of compromise afterwards, after the punishment. And I was thinking, so do you want them to be together or not? I'm not entirely sure what that bit was about. Not the bit where the young general was forced to whip the girl he loved, I should say, but the bit afterwards with the general making some sort of compromise or something. I'm not sure what that was about. Okay, so to conclude, I think Black Narcissus episode 3 is probably the best episode of the series because it does tie up the character arcs more. It is a very good episode, and the climax is very good. But I do think the whole supernatural stuff didn't really need to be there, or should have been explained more, or displayed more, because as it stands, it's just some spooky goings on, and a character gets possessed, / slowly starts going mad, and that's it. That's it for that's your horror element. The rest of it is religious drama, which is fine, but with this whole supernatural stuff going on at the same time, it feels like we didn't get enough of the latter. I think we should go on more supernatural stuff, or just scrap it and just have the characters going mad, or religious drama causes one of them to eventually realise, actually, it's not for me. I'm going to go. And other religious drama ensues. But yeah, what we got kind of didn't quite work on the horror angle. The religious drama worked well, but the horror angle, I think, should have been a bigger part of the story, at least before Ruth finally went full mad. And even then, after that, it was still not really that supernatural. At least, not unless it was explained that the ghost was now possessing the body. It was now some sort of vessel now, or giving her instructions, or whatever. Something, anything that would make it more connected to the horror genre or to the supernatural elements of the story. Just something a little bit more. As it is, it's fine, it's good, but I think it could have been a bit better. So I'll be giving Black Narcissus episode 3 a 8 out of 10. Yeah, this episode has some great religious drama stuff and some great character stuff, but when it came to the supernatural stuff, it didn't really work. Apart from Ruth going mad, that was really well handled. It's just a shame it didn't really make much of a connection to supernatural stuff. It's just the characters just went a bit mad. So that's it from my Black Narcissus reviews. This hasn't been the best miniseries I've seen. It's not been the worst. I think the War of the Worlds series was more disappointing, but this series hasn't been that exciting. It's had some good moments, it's had some slow, dull moments, and yeah, I did get a bit annoyed when watching episode 2. I was getting several interruptions, and I did kind of get a bit of that in parts of episode 3, but not as much. And I was able to enjoy episode 3. The episode actually made me enjoy that one for the most part, as opposed to episode 2, which after the first scene, it kind of didn't really. With the messages not really helping, then no wonder I wasn't so upbeat about the episode in the review. And then episode 1 was just very slow setting up the characters. And whilst things did kick off a little bit more in the last couple minutes, it was still a bit late in the game. And what came later on after that didn't really satisfy me in the horror supernatural elements, besides Ruth going mad towards the end of episode 3. That was about it. So, thank you for watching this review. There will be a mini ranking of this series, this mini-series, and I shall see you guys for that next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. But once again, and once again, until Ruth starts going, and once again, starts to dress up like the Indian, not the Indian one. I feel like that would have been, if that was explained how that, if I think it was I think it was Sister Honey. If I'm wrong, then I've forgotten the name. I think it was Sister Honey, and she did feck all in the first 2 episodes. I mean, what we got was fine, I suppose. To give or take, however long this series is, nearly 5, 6. Where was this in episode 1 or episode 2? Where was this development in the last series? If I just think that the whole supernatural element either should have been it's getting tiring. Even Doctor Who started to... No, actually, no. That was a completely different matter. For you guys, episode 4 should have... So, I think this episode... Ooh, nasty stuff, but... Ugh. And I was kind of like... So I will be giving Black Narcissus episode 8... Shit. Yeah, but otherwise, this episode should have been so much, apart from Ruth going mad, that one, but this series just hasn't been very good. And I was able to enjoy episode 3 a lot more because of that. And I was able to enjoy episode 3. Episode 1, So I thought things were going to kick off a bit more with the last couple minutes, but most things did